let's make yogurt. I'm going to show you how to make whole milk plain yogurt today. And all you really need is about a gallon of milk, some ball jars, and I use a crock pot to control the temperature. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You don't have to go this much overkill, but hey, I'm an engineer. I just wanted to do it, so don't make fun of me for it. Alright, so here's how we do it. We're going to take the milk and we're going to heat it up on the stove. So let me get that set up and I'll reconvene the video. Okay, so I filled the jars with milk and I put it in the pot, and now we're heating up the yogurt. Now, the way that I've run some tests on how best to make the yogurt. I like a thicker yogurt, and the best way to make it thick is actually to heat it up and get it almost to a boil, almost to a rolling boil. So I try to heat it up until it's almost about to foam over, and once it starts foaming over, that's when I put the timer on and I'll set it for 15 minutes. But we're not quite there yet. So let's just, I'm going to stir it up here. Keep that film on the top layer from forming. We don't want that to form, so I stir it occasionally. And now let's set up the temperature bath while this is heating up. Okay, so from running the trials of making yogurt to get the ideal tartness and thickness, what I've figured out is I run it in two different temperature stages. I'll run it at 120 degrees, and then after that I'm going to run it at 100 degrees. Okay, so that's why it's key to have this temperature controller. It makes it really easy to do this. So right now I've plugged it in, and again I'm going to show you in the description what exactly you would need to buy to set this up. But basically all it is a thermostat controller. It has, here's the thermocouple right here, and what you do with the thermocouple is you put it in the crock pot, and I'm going to fill this with water. And I'm going to plug the crock pot. This is the crock pot plug. I'm going to plug this into the female plug for the temperature controller, and it'll actually kick it on and off at whatever set point. So I can change the set point here. So I got the set point. Right now it's flashing 120. I could set it wherever, but really what we want is we want it at 120 to start with. So I'm going to set it there. And the yogurt, by the way, the milk is still heating up. It's getting hotter and hotter. Okay, at this point, the yogurt is getting warmer. It's getting a lot hotter. And I will want to record this temperature or measure the temp with a kitchen thermometer, but I don't need to do it at this point. I just need it to get hot and get to the point to where it's almost about to boil over. So it's going to be 210, 212 degrees by the time it starts to boil over. I have my temperature bath set up. So this is almost at 120. It's heating up. So the way this works is it's just a thermostat. So I have a set point of 120, and right now it's reading 116. So it turns on the crock pot. And so what we're going to do here, the next step after we get hot, after we get to where we're boiling over, I'm going to let it sit at that 210 degrees or so for about 15 minutes, and then after 15 minutes we're going to cool it down in the sink with an ice bath, and we're going to cool it down to 120, maybe a little warmer, 125, and then we're going to add the yogurt at that point to so that it'll make more yogurt. Okay, right now we're at the point to where it's almost boiling over. The temperature is 212 degrees. I'm sorry, 211 degrees, and you can see it's starting to foam up a bit. So I'm just going to keep stirring it. And what I'm going to need to do in a little bit, you'll see the foam start rising. So it's important here that you watch it. Don't let it overflow, because it will boil over. So here's the boil over. You can see it's heated up significantly. And what I want to do is I basically just turn the eye off. Put it on low. And it got pretty high. But this is okay, it's fine. It can do this. You just turn the heat down. It'll fall back down in the pot. And so at this point, what I want to do is I want to set the timer for 15 minutes. So I'm going to let it sit for 15 minutes. It's already falling back down, and now I can turn it back maybe to medium heat and let it sit there at 212, 213. It doesn't matter. I'm not really concerned about the temperature. I acknowledge this is a lot higher than most yogurt recipes tell you to heat it up, but I found that if you want good thick yogurt, this actually helps very well. So I want to take a moment here and summarize what we've done so far, so you can just clearly understand the steps. The first thing we did was we poured the milk into the pot. We did enough to make 8 of these cups, and I'll give you some specs on those jars, but they work great. So we put that in there, and then we heated it up, and now we've heated it to a rolling boil. It's a stable rolling boil, and we're gonna hold it. We held it at about 213, 212, where it's boiling for 15 minutes. So that's what we've done so far. And the goal here is to actually, we're going to cool it down after this step. We're going to cool it down and actually start the yogurt process, the fermentation process. Okay, the other thing we've done is the second side of this setup is a temperature bath. This is how I'm controlling the temperature for fermentation. Now, a lot of people they use coolers or they use the oven. You can do that. You can get the yogurt to the 120 degree range, and then put some like hot water jars. But again, I'm an engineer. I intentionally over-engineered this for fun. I don't care if you make fun of me. It's what I like to do. And so what this is just a temperature controller with a crock pot. And I'm going to control the temperature around 120 degrees. And that's where it's going to sit for the first temperature set point. So what we're going to end up doing with it is we're going to put it in there, put the yogurt jars in there at 120 degrees for about 2 hours, and then I'm going to lower the set point down to 100 degrees and let it sit there for the rest of the day, at least 8 to 10 hours. And then after that, you'll have yogurt. You can put it in the fridge and eat yogurt. Okay, the 15 minutes are up, so what I'm going to do now is turn the eye off. And I'm going to start filling up my sink to make a temperature bath. And this is a little bit of ice, but I'm going to put a lot more than that, and then we'll actually start cooling it down. Okay, it's cooled a little bit at this point, but not very much. It's cooled down to 193, which is fine. It can just sit there for a little bit, and I've made my water bath. And now I'm going to transfer the entire pot into the water bath, and we're going to cool it down. Okay, so what we want to do at this point, so I have the pot in the ice bath, and it's cooling down, 143 and counting, and I really want to just stop. I'm gonna show you. You got to keep stirring it while you're doing this, because you want that temperature probe to make sure it's got the right temperature. So as I'm stirring it, it was stagnant, and the temperature kind of pops back up a little bit. What you want to do here is you want to target about 125 and below. Anything below 125, that's when you want to take it out. When you start seeing 125, that's when you want to take it out. It is difficult to do this while filming. Okay, so I took the pot out when it got to be about 125, 124, 123. And after I took it out, it even dropped a few more degrees down to 119. That's actually perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So now at this point, the next step we're going to do is we're going to add 2 to 3 spoonfuls, heaping spoonfuls of yogurt and you can use any yogurt, any store-bought yogurt you want, because really what you're trying to do is just transfer the healthy yogurt bacteria over. That's what you want to transfer in. Again, 2 or 3 heaping spoonfuls, and then we stir it up. Okay, you can see right here what I've got is yogurt from the last batch. You can see how thick it is. This is the consistency you're going to get, and it's fairly tart, but it's plain yogurt. And so we're going to put this in. That's one spoonful. Get another one. We'll do 3 spoonfuls here for about a gallon of yogurt. That's good enough. At this point, after I put it in there, we just want to stir it up with a whisk. Just in case you may have scalded the bottom, don't scrape the bottom. You don't want any hard particles coming up. It just probably would be fine. It's not going to hurt anything, but it may not taste very good. After you stir it up a little bit, it's ready to pour into jars. Okay, so I poured the yogurt, the milk with the yogurt culture in it into the jars. Put the tops on. Now we're ready to transfer into. This is where you want to transfer it. Put it in your cooler. Put it in your oven. Whatever you want to do at this point to hold the temperature. And the key here is to hold it at about 120 degrees. And with my method, what I'm doing is I'm holding it at 120 in a crock pot for about 2 hours. Let's say 2 hours. And then after that, we're going to turn it down to 100 degrees and let it go the rest of the day. Okay, I've transferred the jars into the crock pot. I had to take a lot of water out because it was too much water in there. That's not a problem. My temperature, of course, is going to drop a little bit because I didn't really have 120 in the jars. So it's going to heat those back up, but that's fine. I have it on high. And at this point, I can set the timer for 2 hours and let it go. And then in 2 hours, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the temp set point down to 100 degrees. I'm going to remove a little bit of water and put ice in to actually cool everything down to help it cool faster, because I don't want it to linger at 120 and drop down on its own. It'll take forever doing that.